The 2024 season has come to an end, and we've already got some insight on some major decisions that have already been made for 2025, and I don't think fans are going to like them all that much. This is Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinal fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Follow me on Twitter, X at JD Sports Radio, and the podcast at LO_Cardinals. Want to thank those of you who make Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. We're also on YouTube. Stop by, like, subscribe, comment, interact with us. Hit the notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted, because this is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, the Cardinals close out the 2024 season with a 6-1 victory over the San Francisco Giants. Well done. Well done. We can be happy about that. Michael McGreevy, awesome. The dude was awesome once again, which is very exciting to have a talent like that moving forward into the future for this franchise. They end up taking 2 out of 3 in the series and finished the year with a record of 83-79, which puts them in second place in the NL Central. Record-wise, actually tied with the Cubs, but they hold the tiebreaker over the Cubs, so second place for the St. Louis Cardinals in the NL Central in 2024, which allows me to because they won the series as well, to wear my ugly, loud, old man victory shirt one more time here in 2024 before I retire it and we move on with something new next season. If you've got any suggestions for me, let me know in the comments. I will go through those, and we'll come up with something fun. Anyway, record-wise this season, considerable improvement on last year's 71-91 campaign, but still it falls short of expectations of the fan base, which has a playoff or bust mentality. They demand more from their team, from their players, from their coaches, from the front office, and from ownership. We've talked about how things have soured in this organization a lot in recent episodes. I encourage you to go back and listen if you want some of the explanations as to why the Cardinals have been a shell of their former selves in recent years. Plenty of reasons to go around. But now that we know how they got to this point, what are they going to do about it, right? That's what everybody wants to know. Well, how are you going to fix it? What are you going to do? What are you going to change about everything to get things back to the way they used to be not so long ago, which just a couple of years ago, we're talking about, two guys that were, one wins the MVP, one is in the top 3 of MVP voting. We're going to the playoffs. Unfortunately, the upset loss against the Phillies, but we were following Pujols hitting 700 home runs and stuff. Like, there was still energy and excitement about the Cardinals franchise. And since that time, things have gone the wrong way. So the team is going to hold a press conference today, Monday, at 2 p.m. St. Louis time, where hopefully we will get some more clarity on what the vision, what the direction that the team has chosen moving forward to get things right again is going to be. Now, some things have already leaked, much to the dismay of Cardinal fans all over the world. That vision, according to multiple sources, will still include both President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak and Manager Oli Marmol returning in their current roles for the 2025 season. So Mo's not stepping down and turning into an advisor or something like that here in 2025. Oli Marmol is going to be your manager once again in 2025. Neither of those moves surprised me, by the way, but they have been reported by multiple sources. Derek Gould at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch was first to report it. Says in his latest article that adjustments are planned within the front office and organization to include investment in player development and technology, expanding staff, and increased influence for executive Chaim Bloom, among other moves. Now, he did a phone interview with John Mozeliak, who told him and admitted that, yeah, changes are coming. He went into some detail about those changes, telling Gould, "We're shifting to a heavy emphasis that puts it back on scouting and player development. I would say that over the past 10 years or so, we've run a lean operation. And part of that was to allow us to maximize success at the major league level. But over time, you learn that machine can wear down. It's just not producing at the level it once did. That's not to say our minor leagues are in disarray, but an emphasis on infrastructure is something we have been taking a very serious look at. It's obviously going to be a shift in philosophy. Instead of looking for short-term answers, we're going to try to take more of a long view. Now, more details on that directional shift are planned to be announced during the press conference this afternoon. Chairman Bill DeWitt Jr. will reportedly address what was obviously another disappointing season for the team. He's supposedly going to address the massive attendance drop, which is, it was shocking to me here this year. I mean, I don't blame fans for not coming out, but it surprised me a little bit that a team that was still hovering around the 500 mark, that the majority of the city didn't want to come to a ball game, that they were over it. It shocked me, to be honest. And apparently he'll also be addressing and explaining the team's change in emphasis and some of the personnel decisions related to that goal. Those changes include more power for Chaim Bloom. We're going to discuss that a little bit later. Obviously, a lot of us believe that, Bloom, when they did bring him in, was just kind of like in waiting to take over for John Mozeliak's job when he steps down. So I still think that's the plan after 2025. So we'll discuss his role. And obviously, there's going to be some personnel changes on the field with the major league roster. Might not be happening with the manager. We're not totally sure about the coaching staff yet. We don't know who's coming and who's going there yet. But Oli Marmol is going to be back. But not all these players are going to be back in 2025. And apparently one that is definitely not going to be returning is former NL MVP Paul Goldschmidt and possibly staff ace Sonny Gray. We're going to talk about those guys coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You know how sometimes you'll be watching a game, and you got your phone there and you're checking up stats and stuff if you're a fantasy nerd like I am, and you can just sense like a trend is happening in that game. You get a hunch on how things might go. Like Sunday, I'm watching the Packers, and that opening drive, as soon as the Packers dropped that first interception, I was like, oh boy. I was like, we're going to be in trouble today, aren't we? Things aren't going to go quite the way we were hoping they would. And that's how it happened. It didn't go well. They made it a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. But the point is when you get those feelings in the middle of the game, you can now hop on the FanDuel app and check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you actually place your bets. They've condensed it there for you to make it that much easier for you. You got 2 Monday Night Football games tonight, Titans at the Dolphins, Seahawks at the Lions. With FanDuel, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. You can leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. Feedback is always welcome, encouraged at JD Sports Radio and at LO_Cardinals on X there. So one of the main reasons for the failures of 2024 was the offense, right? Like we know this. This is not new news to you. This team was built around 3 veterans offensively, right? Paul Goldschmidt, Wilson Contreras, and Nolan Arenado. Those were your guys. That was the meat of your order. Those were the guys who were supposed to carry this team through thick and thin, and they all had terrible seasons. Now, Willie, he was really good when he was on the field, but he got hurt a lot this year. Appeared in just 84 games due to multiple injuries. Obviously, the broken arm was a big one. Now he had the finger there at the end of the year. So losing your number 3 or cleanup hitter for the whole year, basically, losing him for almost 100 games, that's a big deal. Goldie and Nato appeared in 154 and 152 games, respectively. So they were on the field a lot, but problem was they weren't all that good. Both had the worst seasons in their likely Hall of Fame careers. Now, Paul Goldschmidt is the one I want to focus on here. His continued regression was rough to watch for all of us involved because nobody likes to see the decline of a player that you like. It was painful watching Adam Wainwright into his final year. That sucked. I don't want to remember Adam Wainwright as that guy. And I don't want to remember Paul Goldschmidt being the guy that he was here in 2024. Final numbers, 245 average, 22 home runs, 65 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. You look at that, and it's not like it's bottom of the league bad. Like, it's not like this is like, oh my gosh, this guy cannot hit at all anymore. OPS plus of 98, league average is 100. So he's right around league average. But the eye test, right? The eye test tells you that father time has finally caught up with the 37-year-old. It's the lowest batting average he's ever had. It's the third lowest home run total he's ever had in a full season. It's his lowest RBI total. It's a career low in OBP, slugging, and OPS, and a career high in strikeouts. The trends are there, all right? The trends are there that Paul Goldschmidt is not the guy that he once was just a couple of years ago when he won that MVP. That the skills have declined enough where he's not going to get better magically overnight. No hockey puck handle on the bat is going to fix him. And all of a sudden, he's just going to be awesome once again at his age. It just doesn't happen unless PEDs of some sort are involved with players, which is how older guys got better back in the day. But, Goldie's not that guy. He's not going to use that. Keeps himself in tremendous shape, takes care of himself, but it is what it is, man. It's a tough reality. This is also the end of his contract with the team. So we knew that there was a decision that was going to be coming up. And according to Katie Wu at The Athletic, that decision has been made. The team is expected to part ways with the 7-time All-Star. We always thought it would be a Cardinal thing to do and re-sign him for at least one more year, maybe a 2-year extension. But apparently that's not the case. Wu says Goldschmidt's exit is expected to be the first of many decisions that the Cardinals will make this offseason. Per a league source, they will unlikely retain any of their impending free agents, which includes relievers Andrew Kittredge and Keenan Middleton. Whether that will impact starting pitchers Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, who have club options for 2025, remains to be seen. That bums me out a little bit about Andrew Kittredge because I have enjoyed having Kit on this ball club. I thought he was a very good relief pitcher and a very serviceable pitcher. But, perhaps it's not only just not wanting to pay him, but maybe they feel like, all right, maybe that's the best he's going to be and he's not going to get any better and he's going to start to decline. So maybe they're kind of like, all right, let's not hang on to that, because that would be a Cardinal decision that they've made in previous years, is they would hang on to a guy for a little too long. So maybe that's being proactive, which, would be a good change for the team for once. It is hard to believe, at least in my opinion, that they'd bring back either Lynn or Gibson if slashing payroll is the objective here, right? They both make a substantial amount of money, and Lynn looks like he was ready to retire the way he spoke and talked about things at the end of the year. But maybe he comes back for another one. Gibby looks like he's got some juice still left in his tank. Normally, that would be a guy that I would think the Cardinals would want to hang on to. But at this point, the way they're going about payroll, it makes sense that you're not going to pay the amount of money it's going to cost to bring him back for another year. And what about guys who are still under contract, right? Wu said this. One source indicated a reduction in Major League payroll could be coming, with the club planning extensive upgrades to their minor league system. This could put multiple players' futures into question. Nolan Arenado has 3 years remaining on his 8-year, $260 million deal. Sonny Gray's 3-year, $75 million contract is backloaded. He made just $10 million this season. Wilson Contreras is still owed $54.5 million through 2027. Ryan Helsley should see a major increase from his $3.8 million 2024 salary as he enters his final year of arbitration. USA Today's Bob Nightingale floated the nugget out on Sunday morning that the Cardinals intend on shopping Sonny Gray this offseason. We know that, Sonny's salary is going to escalate. Katie pointed out $10 million this year, and then I think it goes 25 and 35 after that. I think that's how the math goes. He's also got a no-trade clause. And so he doesn't have to go anywhere. If Sonny Gray doesn't want to leave, he doesn't have to. But Nightingale said that the Cincinnati Reds, one of Gray's former teams, are expected to be among the teams aggressively pursuing him. He also says that the Milwaukee Brewers are keeping a close eye on Paul Goldschmidt because they still believe there's plenty left in the tank. And that would just kind of be fitting that he has his career worst year with the Cardinals and his last year with the team, ends up signing with somebody like Milwaukee and just lights it up for them in their order. That would be fitting. They're going to be losing Willie Adames, who's going to become a free agent and is going to make a buttload. They're not going to pay him. So Reese Hoskins is up. So, it makes sense. And Goldie's had a lot of success hitting in Milwaukee. So I see why there would be a fit there. But that would be tough if he comes back to bite the Cardinals after they let him go. But I'll be honest, I never thought I would see the Cardinals get to this point. Like, where they're just selling veterans off the way we've seen other clubs do it. Teams like the A's and like the Marlins have done recently. We don't know yet if it's going to be a complete teardown where all of these guys are gone, where they're just going to start just slashing salary to a point where, all of these guys, even with the no trade clause, like Arenado, they're like, look, we're going to move you. Where would you like to go? Like, I don't know if that's the conversations that's going to be had. It would shock me to if that is how far it went when it comes to this. Part of me believes that they would still want a couple of these guys to still be around. But it doesn't appear that has been ruled out yet, that a complete just let's clean it all out and let's go with the prospects, and we'll sign some cheaper veterans to fill in the holes, but no more of these big time free agent targets anymore, at least for the moment. Some people will be on board with that, and some are going to have a really tough time swallowing a rebuild pill, if you will, featuring mostly youngsters with just a few veterans sprinkled in. It's going to be odd. But you want change, and this is one way to go about it. I think it's sad that this front office and ownership has allowed a franchise like the Cardinals to deteriorate to a point where this is what might happen. And yet the guys who got them in this mess to begin with get to stay in charge. Like, it's weird to me that John Mozeliak will get to finish out his contract because of loyalty, I guess, for how many years he's been in it. So they're going to just let 2025 fade off. No big deal. Like, they're like, well, all right, one more year with you guys, but then we're moving on. I mean, if you're going to gut this thing, why not just wipe everybody out and let the new regime take over? But yeah, it's weird to me that they're getting a chance to start the cleanup on the mess that they've created. But Chaim Bloom is going to be a part of this, obviously. What will his effect be moving forward? We'll get into that because Gould got some quotes and talked about it a little bit as well. So I'll tell you what he had to say about Chaim Bloom coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball that makes getting tickets faster and easier. I don't know how the crowds are going to look next year with this new direction of the team, but still under the same direction of the old guys who got us to this point in the first place. But my guess is plenty of good tickets will be available for the 2025 St. Louis Cardinals season. And Gametime is where you're going to want to go grab those with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices. You get views from your seat, your lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. But it's not just baseball. Gametime is a wonderful tool to get tickets to all your favorite events, whether it's college football, whether it's NFL football, concerts coming to town, comedy, theater, anything that you're interested in that has seating and you need a ticket to get in. Gametime is the app that I trust to go to each and every time, and I think you're going to enjoy it as well. They've got the Gametime ticket coverage where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Just take the guesswork out of buying your MLB tickets and tickets to any events with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sonny, who has you covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sonny also did a nice goodbye and farewell to Oakland Coliseum and to the A's, which I thought was cool as well. So he's been covering the A's stuff this year for us. So go check that out too, because, change is coming to them as well. Not quite as drastic for the Cardinals as it is in Oakland, but change is coming here in St. Louis. And Chaim Bloom, who spent the past year going over the Cardinals system with a fine-tooth comb, is going to be a big part of what is hopefully a turnaround for this franchise. According to Gould, he will have an increased role this year. He says he was auditing and reviewing the Cardinals organization, visiting every level and the academy in the Dominican Republic, and spending time with officials and coaches throughout the system. His influence will expand to including shaping player development as well as input on major league decisions. Now, background on Bloom for people who aren't so familiar with him real quick. He was outstanding in Tampa Bay, started as an intern and worked his way all the way up, helped them shape and build that organization, which continued to just make smart moves, churn out prospects. They got rid of veterans at the right time and kept it very, as far as payroll-wise, very, very manageable. But yet, they kept winning. And this past year was tough because they had a ton of injuries to their starting rotation. Obviously, you've got the Wander Franco stuff that went on too. Those things can't be planned for. But still, they had a good season. It's not like they were terrible. So Tampa Bay, obviously, that's the kind of organization the Cardinals, I think, are striving to be like. Now, when he went to Boston, he was tasked with even more responsibility. Things didn't go as well there. He did help build their farm system back up, but they also wanted him to do some other things like shedding payroll. Sound familiar? And he struggled to find success in that area. The Mookie Betts trade ended up being a disaster. The Xander Bogaerts saga, that was a rough one for Boston. Trevor Story's contract has been terrible. He did not do all that well at the trade deadlines, where he wasn't very aggressive to add pieces to the clubs that needed a couple of things just to get him over the hump. So a lot of people's opinion, he was not very good at that side of being in charge of things in Boston. They loved how he turned things around developmentally, but did not like his decision-making when it came to kind of, the GM jobs of it all. So perhaps that is a reason why Mo is sticking around. Like, if you try to piece this together, maybe that's why John Mozeliak will be in charge in 2025 once again, as they let Bloom focus on the development side of the organization, and Mo will be there to kind of take care of the payroll issues that they want to move on from and stuff, and to make the trades and stuff like that. Maybe that's why he's getting a chance to stick around here in 2025 in the role of president of baseball operations. Maybe they're not trying to put it all on Bloom right away. Let Mo handle this side. Bloomy get this side. Mo will kind of tutor you on the ins and outs of making deals and whatnot. Maybe I don't know if that's a great idea, considering some of the deals he's made recently, but perhaps that's the idea. I'm just guessing here. Either way, life as a Cardinals fan sounds like it's going to be very, very different from this point forward. Some people are excited about it. I've seen a lot of fans that are on board like, yes, except for why are Mo and Ollie still back? But other than that, they like that there's going to be some change. Some people are cringing at the idea of all of this. Some of the I don't want to call you old, but fans that have been around much longer are like, no, we're not tearing this down. What is this? I've just always said they need to pick a lane. You can't just kind of hang out in the middle and try to sign free agents all the time and patch things up when you can't afford the best ones. So you're bringing in second and third tier guys that aren't good enough to get you to that next level. And while also hoping that your young talent performs well, but if they don't, you just ship them out. You're not kind of living or dying with them. You're just like, well, if they're good, cool. If they're not, we'll go find another 38-year-old to fill his role. So, they were just kind of putting a Band-Aid over things year after year after year and avoiding the real problem. which is they have become so bad at developing their own talent that they kind of push themselves into a corner where they had to go buy not top level free agents because they couldn't afford them to fill out the holes that they couldn't build through any of their young players because they're not good enough anymore. So they're going to start it down and they're going to fix everything from down here up and hopefully become what the Cardinals used to be once again. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? It sounds like it makes sense in my head when I explain it. The question is, I don't know how low the payroll is going to get. That I don't know, but we've heard the number 50 million floating around for a bit now that they were going to slash at least $50 million from the payroll. Moving on from some awful contracts like Miles Michaelis, Steven Matz, although you'd have to eat money in those deals, plus Goldschmidt's contract. The options on Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn should do the trick where you wouldn't have to trade off guys like Sonny Gray and Arenado and Wilson Contreras. But if a full reset is actually happening here, I think that's when you approach Sonny and Wilson and Nolan and say, look, this is what we're doing right now. You want to be a part of this or not? Because if not, you've got these clauses and we can move you. Order some places that you'd be interested in. And then you can shop them around and see what's out there. But if you end up having that conversation and like, hey, we don't know if we really want you around anymore because of how expensive you are, does that make you want to play for that team anymore if you're Sonny Gray or Wilson Contreras and Nolan Arenado? So I don't know. It's a delicate situation. I hope they get all of this right, because if they don't, there could be some very, very dark days ahead for this Cardinals organization. But what are your thoughts on all of this? Let me know in the comments. We can all weep together over the collapse of our beloved franchise, a franchise that just won 83 games. Mind you, the last time they won a World Series, they won 83 regular season games. So it's not like this team is the White Sox, where they're just terrible in every aspect of the game. They're not. That's not it. But it's not what we're used to, right? This is not going to be what we're used to. So it's going to take some adjusting. But there are bright spots in this organization that I think you should still be excited about. Seeing what the catchers have done without Wilson Contreras around, with Pages and Herrera. I think those guys did a great job. We got to figure out how to throw runners out. You gotta learn how to hold runners on. That's something that needs some work on. There's a guy named Yadier Molina who could probably help you with that. At first base, Luken Baker and Alec Burleson seems like a nice lefty-righty combo. Second base, you've got guys like Nolan Gorman and Donovan and Sajasi that are available there. Mason Wynn, obviously locked up at shortstop. Over at third base, you've got Arenado. But if you move on from Arenado, you've still got Sajasi who can play third base. You've got Nolan Gorman who can play third base. Your outfield has got Lars Nootbaar and Jordan Walker and Michael Ciani and Victor Scott II. You've got Alec Burleson still there. You've got Brendan Donovan. And you've got some guys that are in the minors as well that might come up and surprise you. Again, Koperniak is a guy that, why not? Why not give him a chance? See if he can do it at the major league level. But pitching wise, if you move on from Gray, hopefully you move on. If you're doing that, then hopefully you're moving on from a guy like a Michaelis and a Matz as well. But, you've got Palante, you've got Michael McGreevy. I think that's really the hardest part, because I think offensively you've got enough bodies that you feel comfortable moving on from, specifically Paul Goldschmidt. But pitching-wise, you're kind of thin in your starting rotation if you decide to move on from a bunch of these guys. So that'll be an interesting spot to see. I would hate to see Ryan Helsley traded, but I get it. I would get the business decision of it to trade him while he's at top market value and see what you can get in return. So I understand it. I do. One of the things that made the New England Patriots so good for so many years, obviously you had Tom Brady, but it was their ability to move on from veterans before they started declining. They would get rid of them at the top of their peak of their levels of trade market value, move on. Those guys may do okay for another year, and then they would trail off big time, and the Patriots would survive that, and they wouldn't have to pay their expensive contract. So, that's kind of where you're hoping the Cardinals will get at one point, where they're not locked into bad contracts for 2 or 3 years when things are going south. So that could be something that is on the wall for guys like Arenado. I mean, you saw his decline this year. How much does Wilson Contreras have left in the tank? Will he continue to be this really good hitter moving forward, or is he going to start to slip? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The press conference today obviously is going to be a big deal. So curious to see how they go through that and maneuver through that and sell us what they're going to be doing here in the future. So again, that's going to happen at 2:00 St. Louis time. I believe Bally's is going to be airing that live. It's also going to be on KMOX radio-wise. So we'll be all over it, and we'll talk about it in tomorrow's episode. But thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter, X, and at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube, help our channel and our love for our Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and we will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.